Team problem solving is studied using three different approaches: the methods that teams use to solve their problems, the types of behavior that contribute to effective problem solving, and the techniques used by teams to improve team problem solving. Team problem solving approaches are based on a rational model of the process that includes 6 stages. These stages are problem definition, evaluation of the problem, generating alternatives, selecting a solution, implementation, and evaluation of the results. In practice, however, this rational approach is rarely followed, and teams often find themselves developing solutions before they understand the problem. At each stage of the problem-solving process, teams can use a number of techniques to improve their problem-solving abilities. Using these techniques helps teams become more effective as problem solvers. We're going to explore these items in Chapter 11. A problem is a dilemma with no apparent solution, an undesirable situation without a way out, a question that cannot currently be answered, the difference between the current situation and a desired state, or a situation team members must manage effectively. The problem can come from the environment or arise from the team. Problems often first surface for a team as symptoms that cause undesirable effects. In a work environment, a problem for many teams is simply how to complete their tasks or assignments. A team's assignment contains two primary problems. Number one is determining the nature of the assignments and how to complete them. Number two is managing problems and obstacles encountered when performing them. These obstacles may be technical issues, conflicting viewpoints, or interpersonal conflicts. The first step in problem solving is to discuss and document individual views until everyone agrees on the nature of the problem. Teams are often given ill-defined problems and underdeveloped criteria for evaluating them. Teams need to challenge the definitions of the problems, searching for their root causes. They also need to define what successful resolutions would look like in order to evaluate alternative solutions. The result should be agreement on the issues that need resolution and clear statements of the problem. Teams often rush through the problem definition stage only to find that they have to return to it during the solution or implementation stage. This is a time-consuming approach to problem solving. Understanding as much as possible about a problem at the beginning can reduce the overall time spent solving the problem. Another common flaw is ignoring the final stage, evaluating the solution. Often teams are created to solve problems but are not responsible for implementation or evaluation. Evaluation is ignored because no one wants to present negative information to superiors. Rather than learning from mistakes made, the mistakes are hidden from the team and organization. As a result, they are often repeated because of lack of feedback. There are three approaches to team problem solving: descriptive, functional, and prescriptive. Descriptive examines how teams solve problems. Functional identifies the behaviors of effective problem solving, and prescriptive recommends techniques and approaches to improve team problem solving. The descriptive approach examines how teams typically solve problems. Researchers focus on different aspects of the group system in order to understand the problem-solving process. These different perspectives offer alternative ways to understanding the methodology. One perspective using the descriptive approach is to identify the stages a team goes through during problem solving. This approach is similar to the stages of team development discussed in Chapter 3. The 4 stages a team uses when solving a problem are forming, storming, norming, and performing. In the forming stage, the team examines the problem and tries to better understand the issues related to it. The storming stage is a time of conflict when different definitions of the problem and preliminary solutions are discussed. Often, the team jumps ahead to arguing about solutions before it has reached agreement on the problem, so it must return to the problem definition stage to resolve this conflict. In the norming stage, the team develops methods for analyzing the problem, generating alternatives, and selecting a solution. The establishment of these methods and other norms about how to operate helps the team members work together effectively. In the performing stage, these methods are used to solve the problem and develop plans to implement the solution. Rather than going through problem-solving stages, many teams start the problem-solving process by generating solutions. Teams generate alternatives and select solutions in a variety of ways. Strategies include selecting a solution at random, voting for the best solution, taking turns suggesting each member's favorite solution, trying to demonstrate that a solution is correct, or inventing novel solutions. Once a solution becomes the focus, the team analyzes it to determine whether it is correct or at least better than the proposed alternatives. If the majority of members believe that it is, the solution is accepted. If the majority does not, a new solution is generated by one of the preceding techniques. The functional approach tries to improve a team's ability to solve problems by understanding the factors related to effective problem solving and the factors that disrupt team problem solving. An effective team should include intelligent problem solvers and critical thinkers. A team should analyze the problem, develop alternatives, and select the best solution. The problem-solving process should be relatively free of social, emotional, and political factors that disrupt a rational analysis. The following are characteristics of effective team problem solvers. They are skilled problem solvers that view problems from a variety of viewpoints to better understand the problem. Rather than relying on its own opinions, an effective team gathers data and researches a problem before making a decision. A successful team considers a variety of options or alternatives before selecting a particular solution. An effective team manages both the task and relational aspects of problem solving. It does not let a problem damage the team's ability to function effectively in other areas. A successful team's discussion is focused on the problem. Teams that have difficulty staying focused on the issues, especially when there are conflicts, are usually not successful. An effective team listens to minority opinions. Often the solution to a problem lies in the knowledge of a team member, but it is ignored because the team focuses on the opinions of the majority. Skilled problem solvers test alternative solutions relative to established criteria. The team defines what criteria a good solution must meet and uses those criteria when examining alternatives. Now let's look at factors that hurt team problem solving. Project teams often jump quickly to the solution stage without adequately defining the problem, as we mentioned previously. The teams do not discuss their problem-solving strategies or develop plans to research possibilities. In many cases, problem-solving is improved by slowing down the decision-making process in order to promote rational rather than intuitive thinking. Teams that spend time following a structured approach to problem solving make better decisions, and members are more satisfied with the problem solving process. A team may not follow a structured approach to problem solving because of constraints on the process, such as limited time, money, and information. Because of these constraints, teams often seek satisficing solutions rather than optimal solutions. Perfection is expensive and time-consuming to do. Collecting all relevant information needed to solve problems may take longer than the time or resources available to the teams. In most cases, teams try to find acceptable solutions, in other words, those meeting their basic needs, given the constraints of the situation. It is often difficult to determine the best solution. There are trade-offs, such as cost versus effectiveness of the solution. Solutions differ according to their probabilities of success, the amount of resources needed for their implementation, and the politics of implementing them. These trade-offs do not have correct answers. They rely on the judgments of the team. This difficulty determining the best solution limits a team's ability to objectively select the best solution. As discussed in chapters 6 and 9, communication problems may interfere with a team's ability to analyze and solve problems. During a team discussion, more time is spent on reviewing shared information than on discussing specialized information that might be pertinent to a solution. Although the team's discussions should be focused on the problem, team discussions can get sidetracked and disrupted in many ways. Ideally, a team should spend more of its time sharing information, planning, and critically evaluating ideas than on discussing non-task related issues. Teams often fail to follow these steps, although the team's ability to solve problems would be increased. A team's problem-solving process can be disrupted by a number of non-task related factors. Team members may support a position because of their desire to reduce uncertainty or to avoid social conflict. Politics may encourage members to support alternative solutions out of loyalty to their creators or as payback for past political support. Competition in the team may encourage political advocacy rather than a search for the best alternative. Teams are better able to solve problems when power is relatively equal among team members because this encourages more open communication and critical evaluation of alternatives. A prescriptive approach is a strategy that encourages teams to solve problems more effectively. This approach is based on the assumptions that number one, team members should use rational problem-solving strategies, and number two, using a structured approach will lead to a better solution. The value of a formal structured approach to problem solving varies depending on the type of problem. More unstructured and complex the problem, the more helpful it is if the team uses a structured approach to solve it. The functional approach illustrates what can go right and wrong with the team problem-solving process. As mentioned on the previous slide, the prescriptive approach presents a strategy that encourages teams to solve problems more effectively. The value of the formal structure approaches to problem solving varies depending on the type of problem. The more unstructured and complex the problem, the more helpful it is to use a structured approach to solve it. An outline of the prescriptive approach is presented in Figure 11.1, which shows the main steps in the formal rational problem-solving model. Evaluation is one of the most overlooked steps of the problem-solving process. Even when teams do a good job of analyzing the problem and developing solutions, there are unforeseen factors that may lead to failure. Lewin's action research model that we discussed in a previous chapter is a research-based approach to problem solving that emphasizes the importance of the evaluation stage. In this approach, solutions are considered hypotheses that need to be tested. When solutions are implemented, their impacts are evaluated and used to determine their effectiveness and to identify further actions that need to be taken and/or later evaluated. Evaluation requires examining how the solution was implemented and what the effects were. These two evaluations are sometimes called process evaluation and outcome evaluation. These evaluations require that the team provide a definition of a successful outcome, something that it should have done during the problem identification stage. Sometimes, even when the solution resolves the problem, the undesirable situation does not change significantly. This happens when a team solves only part of a larger problem and the rest of the problem comes to the foreground. By taking a larger perspective of the problem, the team may be able to determine the more critical parts of the problem that should be solved. The evaluation stage provides information for future problem identification and solving. Problem-solving teams are typically established for brief periods to solve specific organizational problems or to encourage organizational improvements. These teams work on a variety of issues such as quality, process improvement, reengineering, and organizational development. Problem-solving teams may be composed of people from different organizational levels, from production and service employees to professionals and managers, and from different parts of an organization. Consequently, team members often do not know one another's areas of expertise and may have communication problems because of professional language and background differences. Because of these characteristics, problem-solving teams often rely on facilitators and the use of structured problem-solving techniques. Teams must have a shared conceptualization of a problem in order to solve it. A team cannot coordinate its problem-solving efforts without this shared mental model. In problem solving, the mental model includes the nature of the problem, roles and skills of the team members, and the mutual awareness of team members. A shared understanding of a problem ensures that all team members are solving the same problem. A problem-solving team may use an engineering problem-solving technique called process mapping. Process mapping works as a problem-solving tool because it leads to the construction of that shared mental model that we talked about on the previous slide. The team develops a process map of how the situation currently operates. That is an as-is map, and it defines the parts of the processes and the links among the parts. The team then develops a should-be map that describes how the process should operate. These maps are often utilized to analyze the organization's operations and develop recommendations for improvement. The value of process mapping is that it facilitates team communication regarding the problem definition, which improves later problem solving. In jointly developing the process map, the team arrives at a shared understanding of the problem. This overcomes the tendency of teams to skip the solution stages of the solution stages of a problem. It also creates an environment where diverse team members can share their knowledge about the problem. As team members engage in process mapping, the unique knowledge of each team member is made explicit. The team becomes aware of both the unique and common knowledge it shares. It is forced to negotiate its understanding of the issues related to the problem. Process mapping creates an external representation of a shared problem that facilitates the team's ability to work together to solve the problem. It forces the team to acknowledge deficiencies, which are the problems in the as-is map, before attempting to develop the solution. Force field analysis is an approach to understanding the factors that affect any change program. It examines the relation between the driving and restraining forces for change. The driving forces are what the team wants to achieve and the factors that minimize the problem. The restraining forces are the obstacles that prevent success and the factors that contribute to the problem. This approach can be used at many stages of the problem-solving process, but it is especially valuable in examining implementation issues. When implementing a solution to a problem, teams want to increase the driving forces that encourage the change and reduce the restraining forces that prevent the change from occurring. Teams often focus on the driving forces that are promoting the change. However, most unsuccessful change efforts are due to the restraining forces. Reducing the power of the restraining forces is a necessary precondition for the change. Levi and Lawn used this approach to analyze the driving and restraining forces that affected project teams developing new products. The project teams were driven by interest in new technology and an organizational culture that encouraged innovation. However, the success of producing and marketing new products was restrained by technical problems in manufacturing and by financial issues. Understanding these forces encouraged the project teams to include members from manufacturing and marketing in the design teams to address these problems. This concludes Chapter 11. Please let me know if you have any questions.